This is Gerardo Del Real with Resource Stock Digest. Joining me today is the president and CEO of Barksdale Resources, Mr. Rick Trotman. Rick, great to have you back on. How are you?
I'm great, bud. Thanks for having me back on the show.
Listen, we joked a bit off air. I was mentioning to you the robustness of the gold price. I was reading an article earlier today, a piece by Mr. Robert Friedland, who knows a little something about the commodity markets, and he was talking about the copper deficit that is fast approaching. And you joke and kidded back that you don't have a lot of gold. And I said, but yeah, Rick, the robustness of this metals market is clearly starting to accelerate. The trend to me is clear with gold above 2,000. With the copper deficit that everyone now, even the major brokerages and banks, are finally starting to come around to, and you're perfectly positioned with drilling at Sunnyside coming up here soon. So I thought I'd reach out, get your take on the overall markets, given your capital markets experience, and then let's get into what comes next for Barksdale.
Sure. Yeah. Exactly like you said. While we don't have a lot of gold in our portfolio, it's more base metal and silver focused. The gold price is one of those key metrics that investors in the mining space broadly look at. And when gold goes up, people get excited. When people get excited, money starts flowing back into the sector. And, with copper deficits and other base metals looking like they're, set up for good supply demand, paradigms for the next 5 or 10 years, I think ultimately the tide will come in and all boats will rise across the equities complex here in the mining space. So overall, I think it's going to be fantastic for investors getting into the mining world. And, we've got, some really great projects that I think will hopefully cast a spotlight on us in that type of environment.
Well, set the table for me, Rick. What comes next? You mentioned having some really great projects, and you do. And look, both you and I and people that are familiar with Barksdale have been waiting for years for what's about to roll out here in the next several weeks and months. And I think, the rest of the year is going to be a transformational one for the company. But for those that may be new to Barksdale or are looking to take advantage of a copper market that's setting up to go on an epic run, can you give us an overview of the main flagship and then obviously, of course, talk portfolio and what happens the rest of this year?
Sure. Yeah. So as you mentioned, we've been in a permitting process for quite some time, and it's always seemed like this never-ending process. But luckily, we've kind of come to the end of the road here. So we received our draft permit back in late January. We're working through some kind of a compulsory objection period items. And, here in the next 6 to 8 weeks, we should be all done with that permitting process. And hopefully we'll have a drill on the ground soon thereafter. And as you mentioned, that really lines up the rest of the year quite well as far as getting great results out to investors. And we hope significant results, given the type of deposit that we're looking at, the historic drilling that's associated with it. This is a big copper porphyry style project with this really high grade skarn and carbonate replacement deposit, sitting immediately off of it. And that ties into the neighbor who has, probably one of the world's largest carbonate replacement deposits, a really, great base metal asset that they're looking to put into production here in the next couple of years. So, we have a piece of this gigantic world-class system over the next, kind of 6 to 12 months. We'll be drilling the heck out of it and determining how much of that sits on our property.
Well, we've talked before about geology not respecting border or property boundaries, right? And so I know that the team is uber excited about figuring out what Mother Nature left behind. The trend seems pretty clear to me. To me, it's just a matter of how much you're going to find, not whether or not you're going to find anything there. Do you agree with that assessment?
Yep, exactly. It's all about how much high grade can we find. I think there'll be lots of mineralization just overall. And what we need to do is lock in on kind of the more important mineralization, which is the higher grade, and really focus on expanding those as much as possible. Those ultimately, are the most economically important when it comes to mining style operations. So that's what we got to clue in on. That's what we have to follow.
Looking forward to an important last, 7 months of the year here for Barksdale. Anything to add to that?
Like our ticker on the Canadian exchange is BRO, and on the US OTCQX we are BRKCF.
Thanks, bro. Couldn't help myself. Thanks, Rick. Appreciate the time.
Thanks,
Absolutely. Look forward to having you back.
Always a pleasure.
All right. Cheers. Hey everybody, Gerardo Del Real here. If you're enjoying the content that you just saw, you can let us know in 3 simple steps. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and please share across your network and on social media. Take care, everybody.